Hello and welcome to the Drawing Room Experts. This is Zaib, back with another episode. This time to talk through a very interesting experience that I had a couple months ago. And as you all know, I'm a huge YouTube fan. I've made no qualms and no secret about that. Um, and in this particular episode, I wanted to, share a very recent YouTube experience that I've just had, and it definitely, most certainly, was an experience. I recognize this is going to be. A very you know maybe not everyone's cup of tea, this particular episode, because it's about you too, and I recognize that they're not the Taylor Swifts of this world at this moment, and um uh, and I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest. And then also the other thing is that the show that I wanted to talk about is also a very um, it is bound by geography. So not all of you who might be listening to this may have an opportunity to watch this show. And but on the other hand, I mean, this might serve as a good secondhand almost experience for you guys, so that you can experience this whole thing through my eyes almost. But before I get started, do subscribe to the channel on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and a bunch of other places too. And follow us on Instagram at Drawing Roomers, at Drawing Room Experts. Yeah, let's, without any further ado, let's get on to You Two You We. So, start of this year, U2 came out with a huge announcement. Actually, they released it in February as part of the Super Bowl ad. One of the ads at the Super Bowl was this whole huge announcement that which, I mean, at this point wasn't a huge secret. It was just a matter of when, if not if, that they are going to be doing a Las Vegas residency with this company called Madison Square Garden. I'm sure you've heard of this venue, Madison Square Garden in New York City. Um, um, Very famous venue. One might argue that even more famous than the sports that is played on that particular location, which is ice hockey. But it is more known for its artistic ventures. So you might have attended a concert in Madison Square Garden. You might have attended a show on Madison Square Garden. You might have attended a stand-up special on Madison Square Garden. So it's pretty iconic from that perspective. That it is a very one of those places that every artist kind of looks forward to performing at one stage of their career, and they treat that as, and rightfully so, as a pretty huge thing and a highlight of their time in the business. So I didn't know before this whole thing was announced, but Madison Square Garden is actually a company as well. So they have this venture called, or this production, or this um this equipment almost called the Sphere. They built this massive construction. It was like a globe, or like an orb, middle of the desert in Las Vegas, on the Strip, obviously. They built this almost like a globe structure, and it took them, good part of, I'd say, year and a half, I guess, um, and then on top of that, it took a good chunk of like $2 billion to get this built, and this has been in the news for a long time because people were losing jobs, and the owner, pretty rash, known in the community, known to be a pretty rash personality, was in the news for all the negative reasons in terms of, like, firing people, and showing attitude. I mean, even until recently, when they released their earnings report, I think end of September, um, their CFO resigned. A couple months, or I think a month before their earnings release, which is, or a few weeks, I guess, before their earnings release, which is, if you're in the finance business, in the in the world of investing, that's a pretty big red flag when that happens. So a lot of noise around this whole venture and this whole company and what they're doing and this with Sphere. It's eating up so much money. Is it going to be worth it? And then in February, as I was mentioning, they release an ad on um, Super Bowl Sunday, and Super Bowl is well known for its halftime show and their ads that go out on during the halftime show or during the game itself. One of the ads was this announcement that Sphere is coming to Vegas and it's going to launch sometime this year, and U2 are headlining it. So the first uh, um, group or artist that are going to be performing in this massive structure called the Sphere are going to be U2. And I'll talk about the interesting stuff about the structure itself, but the fact that this company, I mean, it was important to give you the context around how much money this cost, and there was a lot of noise around it. The market was not really favorable. It wasn't really something that was being built up in the media the correct way. It was a lot of negativity. There was some excitement around it, obviously, because you're building something unbelievable, but then it was also a lot of noise around, oh, it's costing too much money. The CEO is firing everybody left, right, and center, and I think the CEO left right before or something like that. So it was just not a lot of positivity around the whole structure. And personally, I thought, I was waiting with long, uh, just waiting essentially, for this whole thing to be completed. And the biggest reason was I was interested to see that will this be a slightly different production? Would this be a slightly different experience for the U2 family? Well, U2 fans like myself, that compared to what they did a few years ago, I think a decade ago almost, they did this Broadway show called Spider-Man: Turn Off the Dark, and it was a Broadway production produced by Bon on the Edge. It was not a U2 venture per se, but it was still, Bon on the Edge. They're U2, half of them at least, and that didn't really, that had a lot of noise around it too, because it was pretty out there. It was pretty, um, um, something that has never been done before. They were doing live action Spider-Man, and with actually the actors flying in the um, theater, and a lot of people got injured, and it was pretty. At some point there was a lot of jokes around it too. So coming from that experience, we have this whole thing about the Sphere, then this negativity that was surrounding it. I was kind of curious to see how this will turn out. And then I've got to give it to the PR team, because they kept a lot of that noise at bay, and all the people who were reading about it, like myself, knew the negativities around it. But to the common person who has nothing to do with U2 or Vegas or music concerts, I would imagine for them this would have been a really nice build up, because they did that, and then once they um, announced the shows, which were due to start end of September, they did I think a bunch of documentaries or interviews, most prominently with Zane Lowe for Apple Music, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and they kind of gave everyone an insight as to what this magnificent structure would look like and feel like. So the hype was slowly growing. And then on top of that, I mean, at least for me as a U2 fan, a huge U2 fan, um, and obviously others as well, it was the I would say um, almost like a disappointment. Almost was the fact that Larry Mullen Jr. was not going to be performing during the shows because of his injury, and there was some questions around whether he's with the band or did he leave, or some contentious interviews given, and which were later cleared to be obviously not a concern, but that for some moment in time, the U2 fans were like, myself, pretty anxious about the future of the band, and then this whole thing coming up, it was just recipe for a lot of things that could potentially go wrong, right? Is this their swan song, and we have this new drummer coming in? How is he going to fit in, and what's going to happen? Do we need to do it before Larry? I mean, I understand there was commitments made and contracts signed, so obviously this was always going to happen in 2023, and Larry or no Larry, this is going to go forward because of contractual agreements. But still, it just didn't have a great feeling, uh, attached to it as we were building up. So, एक और चीज़ I think मेरे दिमाग में आ रही है कि around I would say summertime में, the other thing that was quite, I guess sort of alarming for the U2 community was, are we ever going to see a new album, new work coming out of U2? Because you could almost see, like, after the Joshua Tree tour in 2017, I think, and then ended in 2019, um, sandwiching the experience and Innocence tour in the middle. So a lot of the concerns were like, are we moving towards that Heritage Act situation? Which I personally, I thought that was never a concern, but you could always see the writing on the wall, because the decisions sometimes that were being made by the band and the group and the organization that surrounds it were sort of pointing towards that. And with the whole, U2 residency in Las Vegas, that also kind of like sometimes to a commoner spells as if, well, these guys are just going to bask in their glory and play old songs, and that's how it ends. That's how that's how unfortunately some artists kind of like finish their careers. They go to Vegas and they do like a few residencies, and they do that for until they can do it. Milk a few million here and there, and that's it. There you go. So although with this situation, I thought this was slightly different because it's not a residency in a fucking hotel where you book a a Caesar's Coliseum or something. I don't know if it's called a Coliseum, whatever it is called. The hall where they do the shows. I think Adele is performing currently, or was at the time when I went. And then a bunch of other bands do residencies over there and make a lot of money. And it wasn't anything like that. This was something specific. This was specifically for a location that's like no other. So so there was that, a weird taste in your mouth kind of feeling, where you feel like, oh, okay, we're doing this, but without Larry, and then some, negative press around the whole Sphere thing, the company, and then your main drummer is not playing, and interviews are sending mixed signals. Believe it or not, these guys have been in this industry, in the business for so long. It's and still managed to slip a few things, which make people anxious. But all of this, or most of this, was sort of like cleared out. I mean, for me personally, it was cleared out until the eve of the show, when the show began. I think 29th or 28th September or something like that, end of September. The day before, well, not the day before, a week before the show, U2 does like a surprise pop-up in Las Vegas to shoot a music video for their upcoming single called Atomic City. Now, side note, Atomic City, since its release, it's become kind of like, at least in my household, a pretty popular tune. I love the song. My daughter, she loves it. I mean, that's as a father, it makes me feel really good that her musical taste has taken up a pretty admirable start. So, but put that aside. I mean, so they did this pop up kind of like in on Fremont Street, I think that's what's called, in Las Vegas, and they did like a shoot of their video, and in that video you see none other than Larry Mullen Jr. Um, you know, appearing and recording and playing, albeit in some visible pain, but that was a huge relief for me personally, because I was like, okay, um, we're still looking at a we're still looking at a collected band, and we're still looking at these guys who started out in north side of Dublin, and they're still together after all these years. That's basically, I feel like, the most beautiful thing about this band that I really like, that the friendships that they've built. And I got that insight more when I read the book that Bono released, which we've reviewed, by the way, a few episodes back, a few months back. I reviewed that, so do check that out if you're interested in reading or buying that book. But yeah, so they release that. They record the song, calms down the nerves of a lot of U2 fans. And then I think subsequently Bono kind of, like, in one of the interviews, mentions that when they were recording the song, they had asked Larry to, because they were going to record the song without Larry, so they needed Larry to play in the studio. So he comes in, actually ends up playing for like 3 hours or something in the studio, which was quite great to know that happened. And obviously the drums that you hear on the recording is Larry Mullen Jr. is unmistakable. And then he records the video, so there's still that commitment with the band, and he's still showing up. Very easy for him to not show up or not even record a video, but I guess they had to do that. The song was released the night before, or actually the day of their first show, a night in Vegas. I had, I think in the summer prior to all of this happening, obviously I was going. There was a poll, I think, somewhere in the middle as well when the shows were announced, that are people going to go. Like, U2 fans were like asking one another, "Hey, we're going to see three of the U2, um, three members of the U2 group, and not Larry. Is it still a U2 show? Are we going or are we not going?" I mean, I was always going. There was no question in my mind. Three's, enough, just enough for me. I mean, not that I don't want to see that. Of course, I want to see Larry and all of them perform together, but three's good enough for me to actually buy the ticket. So, buying U2 shows or attending U2 shows is difficult, not because it's the logistical part of it. It's fairly simple. However you want to buy tickets, it's pretty simple. You go in. They've been trying to do some new things about like the verified fan, and if you get the link first and you put in it's just all over the place. Trust me, I feel really uncomfortable with that. I don't get it. I mean, a lot of other fans are pretty fine with it. I don't get it. I'm a subscribed member of U2.com. I get these emails right before the shows are released. And I'm, I feel like I still haven't figured that part out. So I skipped all of the pre-releases, or the first dibs of the U2 fans, or U2.com subscribers would get. And I actually gone out and bought the tickets off of Vibe, which is I would say a much more, the much more a package deal, where you get like a hotel room or suite with the Venetian. You stay over at the Venetian, which is linked to the Sphere, and then obviously you have the shows, ticket to the show as well, and then some other like merch access that you get. And So I in the summer I had gone in and bought that package, which included hotel stay and the tickets itself for me and my wife and my daughter, and we had planned that we'd go there and I would fly in the night before and attend this show on a Saturday and fly back on Sunday morning. But I kept delaying buying the tickets to the flight, and by the time I decided I want to do it, I'm going to buy the tickets to the flight, hoping that it would be cheaper. It was actually very, very expensive, so I ended up skipping that and decided that we were going to drive to Vegas, which is like a 9 hour, 8 hour, 9 hour journey from where I live. So, um, so we drove there, and meanwhile, this was in October when I attended the show, end of October 28th, and up until that point, they've been playing. I think the show that I attended was the 14th show. So they're like a month into their quote unquote residency, and the reviews were unbelievable. I've been following the set list very closely, and the excitement just was unbelievable because they were really smooth. The experience was unbelievable. It was opened to rave reviews. I mean, the reviews have been unbelievable for the whole show, regardless of what outlet that you listen to. You have your, what's it called, Rolling Stones, or uh, some others as well. I mean, they all sports. I mean, they all the reputed music publications were bringing up great reviews. And so the hype definitely increased. The song that I was referring to earlier, Atomic City, that rose up to the charts. I think last I checked, it was number one, number two on the Billboard chart. This is, I think, the best one of their songs have done for an extended period of time on the Billboard charts, which I don't really buy into that too much because it's just irrelevant at this stage because we have streaming and all of that stuff going on. And some of these bands that are from, I would say, the classic way of doing it through records and vinyls, and people actually going and standing outside the stores buying the records, that they're kind of like much more traditional way of doing music business. Not that U2 is too traditional. They've been very out there in terms of experimenting and doing new things. And I mean, who can forget the 2014 Songs of Innocence album popping up in everyone's iPhones, which is, I mean, I was sick and tired of the whinging that some people were doing because of that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I think the atmosphere going into the show, attending the show, was really good. So, how was the accommodation? So Vibe, I thought, was really good. I think it was fucking expensive, number one, but it was you got what you paid for, right? You get a great suite. You I think from my room to the venue, so Sphere, was about, I would say, 15-minute walk, 12-minute walk tops. A lot of elevators to switch, but still, I thought, so you get that. You have no issues about parking or Uber or whatever. So that was good. And then obviously when you're staying at the Venetian on the strip, you get access to a lot of food options. Are open well into the night, late into the night. And then there was slight hindrance because of the fact that F1 was about to happen in a couple of weeks after I attended the show. So there was that nuisance almost, like in terms of like crossing the road. The roads were closed. There was a lot of construction going on. But yeah, that shouldn't be a problem now. But yeah, with the Venetian, I think the whole thing, and then that the package that I bought gave me access to Zoo Station, which is their merch store that was set up in the hotel as well. And it was unbelievable. I was really glad that I got my hands on the Fly Shades, which is the story to which is just for another day, and as to how that guy actually sold it to you too. But anyway, spent a lot of money there on the merch itself. Obviously, food and all of that, uh, uh, gas as well. Driving up to Vegas is down to Vegas is not an easy task in itself. Uh, oh yeah, I think the peripherals I think are pretty much covered. But uh, talking about the show, so I'm a very lucky person in the sense that now I have attended the full album performance of the Joshua Tree, released 1987. The full album performance of Acting Baby, released 1991, 1992. Joshua Tree was released before I was born. Acting Baby released, I was 4 or 5, right? And so I'd missed this whole period of YouTube, which is considered to be a glorious period because of the records that we're putting out, and they were probably the biggest that they were at the time in the 90s and late 80s. And I'm in a unique position where I've kind of lucky enough to say that I've attended both shows. I've seen live Joshua Tree live, and I've seen Acting Baby live now, thanks to the Sphere. So I recognize immediately as I was at the show in the Sphere that I am very grateful to be in this position where I was able to do that. And as a YouTube fan, if you're a YouTube fan, you would definitely understand this. Um, this getting into the Sphere, very simple, very easy. You show your ticket, scan, boom, boom, boom. It's very fast, very convenient. You know where to go exactly. It was beautifully built. It was. I didn't get to explore it. Unfortunately, should have done it, but I couldn't. But the whole structure, it just felt something like out of a 5-star, 7-star hotel. And then you go in to the arena, you want to call it, or you want to call it almost like a coliseum. It is unbelievable. It is just massive. The sound is inch perfect. They have this thing that they say that each seat has its own speaker, so the sound that you hear is unbelievable. They're not like huge speakers on top of you. You can't see the speakers. There's no speakers visible there. So what you hear is just, I guess, the structure kind of throwing the sound at you, which is unbelievable. And then you see this massive screen, which is almost like so if you imagine a globe or half a globe, half of that half globe is the screen from the inside. Minimum half, I would say 75% of it is the screen. The rest is obviously the stands and the seating arrangement to like at the venue. Outside of it is all screens. I'm to this day disappointed that I couldn't get to see outside what it looks like from the outside, because I didn't get time to do that at night, especially. And yeah, so I think the structure is unbelievable. I got some really good seats. Weren't the worst, but weren't the best, but weren't the worst either. Perfectly placed. I could see the band. The screen was at the perfect height for me, so I can absorb it all, and the whole animations and everything else that goes with it was just remarkable, to say the least. And I think the show itself was obviously structured around Acting Baby, the album. So they performed the album in its entirety, but didn't perform it back to back like they did with Joshua Tree, where they just played the whole album out and then had other songs wrapped around it, sandwich the other songs sandwiched the album. But this time, the album Acting Baby sandwiched the other songs. Or like it was, I think the first act is all Acting Baby songs. So you go from Zoo Station, The Fly, Even Better Than the Real Thing, Mysterious Ways, Um, um, Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses won, Until the End of the World, and that's when it ends. The first, I would say, set kind of ends, and then you move into this acoustic set where they perform like an acoustic version of some of their songs, that which was released as part of the Songs of Surrender, also early this year. Also something that we've reviewed. Go check that out. One of the episodes previously, and so that set, they did All I Want Is You and Desire, and um, When Love Comes to Town, and I think one other song, if I'm probably missing it. But I narrowly missed the whole seconds thing that happened a couple of shows after I had attended. The whole performing seconds, the song seconds, for the first time in, like, I don't know, 30 years or whatever it was, or first time ever, perhaps. So I missed that. I'm kind of disappointed that happened after the show that I attended. So they do that set, and then it goes back to the album. The serious songs in the album are much like, oh, I forgot, Trying to Throw Your Arms Around the World. That was also done the first set. So the first set, I think it closes out with um, um, Trying to Throw Your Arms Around the World, and then you move into the acoustic set, and then after that you move into the the remaining Acting Baby songs, which are Acrobat, um actually just two, right? Acrobat and Love Is Blindness. I might be missing a song, but yeah, essentially those two songs or three songs perhaps, and then the whole album is finished. um I loved every performance, as I usually do, but I thoroughly enjoyed, obviously, Zoo Station. My daughter loves that song too, so a good experience with that. I mean, just watching the whole thing, the Zoo Station, the screen kind of like, the burst open, and then you see these magnificent um, visuals, unbelievable. I enjoyed, obviously, even better than Real Thing. It's pretty trippy. Plays with your senses. If you're drunk or whatever, it just goes takes you to another place, takes you higher. Pun intended. Um, and Acrobat and Love Is Blindness. I think Love Is Blindness is a song that I think they've only played in the Zoo TV tour. They haven't played it outside of that ever. So listening to that is just an unbelievable experience. The whole song is unbelievable. I mean, the lyrics and the music and the melody and the composition and the guitar parts, it's just perfect, inch perfect. And to see that live performed to that, keeping it up to the expert standards that the song has, demanded, it was just an unbelievable experience. And then you have a little bit of an interlude. You wait, I guess, 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that, and then comes Elevation, and then after Elevation they play Atomic City, another song that my daughter was really excited to listen to live. And then the whole, like, the experience, what you're going through, I mean, it's just obviously difficult to describe in words. This might be, you might not be uh, really excited for me to listen, or to listen to me about, like, how the show went. I mean, I'm not going to walk you through each song, but you almost have to be there to really experience it. But what I really want to say, outside of the set list, I think the couple of tweaks I would do with the set list itself, which, as a U2 fan, I mean, the band knows this as well as anybody, that are like us fans, are never happy with the set list. We're never happy with the set list. Rarely you see a fan, including myself, who's pretty happy with whatever the band throws out. The set list, we feel like, oh, there's so much that could have been done, because we all want to hear those things that are unique. They're things that we would love to listen to the band play. So obviously there's that about the set list that I would change. I mean, especially in the acoustic part of the show, I would change certain things. But overall production, I mean, you can't have any complaints. The sound was unbelievable. The visuals are unbelievable. I think Bono sounds as well as he has ever sounded ever in his life. That's unbelievable. Guy at his age, his 60s, for him to sound like that is unbelievable. I mean, that's why that's what kills me, because I want to hear more music out of these guys, because they're so, I feel like, still in their prime. They through well I've and this is the hill that I'm going to die on. I feel Songs of Experience is at par, if not slightly better than Achtung Baby as an album. And I know a lot of people will go up in arms about it, like, what the fuck are you talking about? How could you? How dare you? You know, I have my arguments, and I'm not going to argue that here. But the point is that these guys are still throwing out unbelievable work. I will fight whoever needs to fight with me on Songs of Innocence, Songs of Experience, even No Line on the Horizon. I'm going to fight for those albums, come what may, because I really believe in those works, and they are remarkable works. And so for the band that kind of like still putting up their best stuff, it is, a shame if they don't put things out more often. And for Bono, who's just, I think, in his prime, I would say, as far as a singer goes, and a songwriter too, he needs to sing more and write more for you too. And yeah, so I guess the band obviously sounds unbelievable. That can't be, we can't really skip that, because they just they put up a show. They're very professional, thorough, inch tight, perfect. Never miss a note at all. So yeah, I think the whole thing is just A plus. Expensive side, slightly on the expensive side. People are looking to go to Vegas who don't live nearby like I do. Getting up down there is a trek, and then the hotel and the shows itself is a trek. But it is more than worth it, because you're going to see something that you've never seen before. You've never seen a concert. You've never seen a tour. Never seen a show like this ever in your life. And I can guarantee you that. That's why this whole Sphere thing is a game changer. And I feel like, if I was an artist, if I was U2, if I was any artist, who gets to perform there, from going from that to a normal arena or a stadium is going to suck for me. It's like driving the most expensive car, the best of the best, and then going back to whatever trash that you drive, right? It's just, it's that different, because I've attended shows outside of it. I mean, they're not the worst shows in the world, but nothing like this. But yeah, that was my review of U2 UV, and it happened a couple months ago, and I thought it's important that I talk about it and register it, because anything with U2, and I spend, if that occupies my real estate, of my mind, that ought to go out as a podcast episode. That's the rule. Them's the rules. Anyway, subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe. Do whatever, all that stuff. Helps with the algorithm, and gets the word out there. So appreciate it. We'll be back with another one. Thanks. Bye.